Thank you. We've been in discussions with the county and with obviously the developer about this intersection, trying to realign Farlow Road. Just preliminary. We have no commitments from any property owners out there or anything else. However, it would be a county project for sure, and we would certainly try to participate any way we could to make that happen. So, in essence, you know, we have obviously still a long way to go with legislative approvals and things like that that have to take place. But the concept is exactly what Ruth talked about, is realigning Farlow to make sure it aligns with the new intersection that will be coming out of Costco.
Ruth, on the aerial, could you draw kind of what everybody's thinking about, maybe from the blue line on Farlow and how it's going to dogleg and tie back into the new proposed intersection?
Actually, if you've been out there, at a board meeting a couple of meetings ago, Alan Childers talked about realigning Newport and Thornton, and he had this design with little bitty roundabouts, and it's kind of the same thing in this case, but that would be part of what they would design, is that this would line up here, and so the aerial photograph, this is the church, and then it goes back. I don't have it going all showing the whole neighborhood, but this goes back into the neighborhood, and that in essence there would be either a sweeping curve here, or it would be like a little bitty roundabout that would create more of a strong right turn and then a strong left turn. And again, as I said, these folks have talked about connecting their driveways so that they would have access also. This whole area under here is under the power line. You can kind of see these faint white lines. That's actually the power line right there. So there can be no building construction in that area. With regards to whether this would be a sweeping, right, or whether it would be more of a hard right, that would be part of what the developer would do with their design with whatever works best. Is that helpful?
Absolutely. I mean, there's no doubt a stoplight, a signal for all those residents sure would be an improvement over, I know how it is to try to make a left turn in that vicinity on an afternoon. So there's no doubt a stoplight would be great.
Ruth, what is the distance from the new alignment to Ida Hertzler?
Ida Hertzler is a little over 400 feet from this point to this point. It's like 423 feet or something like that. You probably know the exact distance. I don't know, but I measured on...
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Seems like I saw that, or I measured it on GIS or whatever. So this is over 400 feet from Ida Hertzler, and the access into this area here, the nursery and everything, is across from Ida Hertzler. Closing this off here actually takes care of some of the conflicts and everything, and the other access is into the American Hardwoods, which obviously has access to Ida Hertzler too, but then also Marty McDonald's buildings right here, which comes in that eastern driveway of the American Hardwoods through there.
Hey, since you're so good, you wouldn't know the distance from Smith Road to the Sugarwood.
I'm going to defer to Daryl. I have no idea.
It's 3.1 miles. Don't know.
Well, if you recall, when Weigel's was built at the corner of Smith Road and Kingston Pike, there was some concern.
I try not to recall.
Well, it was there, and we had to live with it.
Seems to be a long night.
We don't want to relive.
But there was concern from Sugarwood whether they'd be able to turn or not.
Right.
So,
right.
Am I looking at the same distance or less, or just a ballpark?
So you're comparing the Costco entrance to Ida Hertzler. It's not really quite the same thing. They're both on the same side of the road.
Yes. Well, when Sugarwood, they really did have some concerns at that point.
Well, sure.
Because it was a traffic hazard.
Right. I want to say that's about 200 feet from that right in, right out onto Kingston Pike from Weigel's to the Sugarwood entrance.
I just don't want to create the same thing for Ida Hertzler, I guess is what it amounts to. So.
But they're on opposite sides of the road. It's kind of hard to compare.
Okay.
Problem with Sugarwood is you have that, what I was talking about with that middle turn lane with your conflict. With Sugarwood, here you don't have that because it's on the same side, so cars going in, your movement is with the flow.
Rita, you asked me to come down and answer some questions. I'm going to defer to John Gould with Wilbur Smith Associates. You had some questions about the distribution on Kingston Pike and Level Road.
Kind of restate, I guess, the question a little better. It's, can you give it, you've also obviously done a lot of traffic study and impacts and looking at the modeling and what have you.
Will you tell us again who you are and who you're with, please?
I'm John Gould with Wilbur Smith Associates, 1100 Marion Street, Knoxville. I'm one of the traffic engineers on this particular project.
I'd just like for you to kind of give an overview of the results of the traffic study, both of the entrances, relative to each entrance, at what the worst times of day and maybe timing in the year are, to get an idea. Realize that put something at this location is going to have an impact. It's a matter of how can we best deal with it. So what were the highlights of your study and the results?
Okay, the project itself is going to have obviously an impact in the way of traffic in the vicinity of Level Road and Kingston Pike. We've estimated about a generation of probably a little bit over 10,000 trips per day at this particular location. What we usually look at and what we emphasize are what those new trips are going to be, and we've estimated essentially about 8,500, 8,600 new trips to this vicinity. Those trips will distribute between two major points of access, which both will be signalized. The access that's been proposed and with the signalization of that access will really help distribute the traffic around the site and try to minimize the impact to the intersection of Level Road and Kingston Pike. We estimate essentially about 45% of the traffic will probably come from the interstate and from the Parkside Drive area. 25% would probably come from the west on Kingston Pike, and another 25% from the east, 5% to Kenton Hollow. So again, it's a pretty spread out distribution to the site. Anybody coming from Loudoun County and so forth will both use the interstate as well as Kingston Pike.
Some of the, relative to the hours of Costco's operation, the traffic trips it would generate, the new trips, and the turning and stacking, say, for instance, rush hour in the morning.
And what we do when we do a traffic impact study, we look at the typical peak hours of adjacent street where you have commuter traffic. Typically, that's anywhere between 3 and 6 o'clock in the evening. Especially with the commercial type development, that is your peak hour for the adjacent street, and typically your peak for your commercial development as well for a weekday impact. We look at the intersection, signalized and unsignalized, and we can measure their capacities, and we come up with levels of service. Levels of service is what we use to determine how much those impacts might be or what kind of delays that might be experienced at those points of access and at the public street intersections. The levels of service that we estimated at each of the study accesses as well as the intersection of Kingston Pike is a minimum what we call a level service D, which is an acceptable level of service for urban conditions.
About the stacking, for instance, in the morning, and I know there've been improvements with the double left turn going east on Kingston Pike to Level.
Yeah, the double left has a significant impact on trying to reduce those queues that were experienced eastbound, and obviously will continue to mitigate the past queues that were experienced at location. The queues that we've determined in the analysis that we conducted were fairly minimal and manageable. I believe there were probably none greater than 400 feet.
I do think there's some relevance to this particular question with regard to Costco's normal operating hours. Would you like to speak to that, Mr. Uten? They're not open at 8 a.m. for one thing.
Deferring here tonight.
Tell us who you are and who you're with.
My name is Jeff Rutter. I am the real estate development manager for Costco, and I'm in charge of this project. Our typical operating hours, we open up at 10 o'clock for our business members and 11 o'clock for the rest of our members. And Monday through Friday, we're open until, it varies from community, but 8 to 8:30. And Saturday and Sundays, we close at 6 o'clock. We open up, I think we open up at 11, but we open up at 6 o'clock on Saturdays and Sundays. Pardon me? I'm sorry. Yeah, we open at, on Saturday and Sundays, we open at 11 o'clock. We close at 6 o'clock. Sorry, apologize. I would like to address the community real quickly. We are committed to being a good neighbor, and I have looked at your requests here. I'm a little disadvantaged because I just saw this before the meeting started, but looking at all these, I'm more than willing to come down here. I want to sit down with you. I want to address every one of them. I want to go back to the office, but just to go one by one, improve the ditch. We need to see if we can actually do that through whatever regulatory committees. We may not be able to do that, but we're definitely willing to look at that. The underground stormwater detention to the 200-year flood, I think we're willing to do that. Mr. Rosil's indication that this is a 6-story building towering over your homes, I respectfully disagree with that. I think we can show that it's about a football field away is what it is. And, we're going to have plenty of landscaping going up that. That being said, I'm willing to look at adding additional landscaping wherever we need to do that. The Gabion wall. I understand you don't want to look at an ugly wall. I'll bring you down some alternatives. We'll sit down together, we'll figure something out, and we'll have something, that you're happy with. So I just wanted to make that clear. We're not here to steamroll over anybody. We're here to be good neighbors. We're coming into your community. So, anybody have any questions? Sorry.
I don't have any questions, but you know what? I applaud you. I really do.
Thank you.
Well done.
Jeff, we're delighted that Costco's coming to Farragut. Obviously, it makes us real proud that you feel our demographics will support your store, and so we look forward to it, and we appreciate your willingness to be a good neighbor.
Let's go back to the variances and get that out of the way first. I'm in charge. I need Ruth to go. Ruth, where are we with the variances? We've talked about two.
There are two separate variances. The first one being the one on Level Road, and there would be a 233-foot variance to the north and a 64-foot variance to the south, and move to approve these variance requests. That would be one motion, and then the other motion would be dealing with Kingston Pike and dealing with the 100-foot variance to the west and the 328-foot variance to the east.
Okay.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to offer a motion for approval of the variance request on Level Road.
Any questions first? We need to go see if anybody else
Specifically on the variance.
on the variance. Okay.
Seconded it?
Ed White.
All those in favor? Aye. Oppose? Second variance.
The Kingston Pike variance, we've kind of gone over extensively with regards that the moving of Farlow Drive is not an issue, and that it will be accomplished. We will be basically handing it over to Knox County as part of their responsibilities. The timing with the plans being approved would be part of the site plan approval. So we are recommending approval of the variance 100 feet to the west and 328 feet to the east.